It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You are not hungry. You ate carefully today. You moved this morning. And still, something is pulling you toward the kitchen with an urgency you cannot reason with. That signal has a name. After menopause, a process called insulin lock begins working inside your body, worsening 2 to 3% every year after 60, keeping fat stored around your organs even when your discipline is perfect, and sending false hunger signals to your brain before your next meal ever arrives. By the time most women recognize what is happening, it has already been running for years, not because they were not paying attention, because nobody gave it a name. It is why the waistband keeps expanding even when the food choices are right. It is why energy disappears before the afternoon is over, every single day, on a schedule you could set a clock to. And it is why those 3 o'clock cravings arrive feeling like a personal failure, when they were never about failure at all. They were a biochemical signal from a cycle that the biology of menopause created, and that no amount of willpower was ever designed to override. I am Dr. Elizabeth Carter. I am a board-certified internal medicine physician with a fellowship in women's health and midlife medicine, and 32 years of clinical experience treating women in exactly this stage of life. What I found when I looked closely at what Insulin Lock was actually doing to my patients, and what the peer-reviewed research identifies as the specific response to it, is not something a 15-minute appointment has time to cover. That is why this channel exists. In this video, I am going to show you the compound that clinical research identifies as the most studied activator of the metabolic pathway that insulin lock blocks, the same pathway that prescription GLP-1 medications target through a non-pharmaceutical mechanism. I am going to show you the exact protocol, the exact timing, and the one mistake that makes it fail, even when women do everything else correctly. If this kind of evidence-based analysis is useful to you, please subscribe. I post 2 to 3 times a week. 2 seconds. Do it now. Then stay with me, because what comes next is the explanation I wish every appointment had time to give. After 60, a process called insulin lock begins working against you. It is a progressive form of insulin resistance that worsens 2 to 3% every year after 60, that keeps fat stored around your organs, even when your diet is careful, and that sends false hunger signals to your brain before your next meal ever arrives. And it does not work alone. After menopause, a second process accelerates alongside it: visceral fat acceleration. Because without estrogen, your body stops distributing fat the way it used to and begins sending it specifically to your abdomen, around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines. Fat you cannot see in the mirror, fat you cannot pinch with your fingers, but fat that is there, producing inflammatory substances around the clock, feeding the same insulin lock that is creating it. 2 processes, 1 cycle, and it was never explained to you. Pause. That is not a personal failure. The biology changed the rules after menopause. You were given a map designed for a different body. And today, I am going to show you exactly what changed, why the protocols that worked before stopped working, and what the clinical research identifies as the specific response to this specific cycle in women over 60. Most women who reach me have already done everything they were told. They watched what they ate. They moved more. They cut carbohydrates, increased protein, tried intermittent fasting. Good choices, every one of them. But here is the more precise picture of what was happening while they were making those good choices. The signal that needed to change first was never being sent. And without that signal, even the right choices produce a fraction of the results they should. Let me explain what I mean. Pause. Think of insulin lock like a factory where the main entrance has been locked. Production continues inside. Insulin is still being released, but the delivery cannot get through. Glucose circulates without being able to enter the cells. The body reads this as an energy shortage and responds the only way it knows how. Store more, burn less. The waistband keeps expanding. The energy keeps falling. And every season, the lock gets a little tighter because 2 to 3% more resistant means the gap between what the body needs and what it can receive grows wider every year. Now, here is the part that the menopause conversation almost never includes. Before menopause, estrogen acted as a metabolic traffic controller. It signaled your body to distribute fat to peripheral locations, to the hips, the thighs, the subcutaneous tissue. When estrogen fell, that traffic controller disappeared, and your body defaulted to a new address for fat storage, the center. Researchers publishing in Menopause, the Journal of the Menopause Society, documented that postmenopausal women accumulate visceral fat at a significantly higher rate than premenopausal women with equivalent body mass index. Same weight. The internal distribution is completely different. Postmenopausal women carry on average 49% more visceral fat than premenopausal women at the same scale number. 49%. In the place you cannot see and cannot address through effort alone. And this visceral fat is not passive. It produces inflammatory proteins, specifically tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 6, that actively block insulin receptors on muscle cells, which means the visceral fat is worsening the insulin lock that created it. The cycle feeds itself, and it does this quietly, without a dramatic announcement, starting years before any symptom feels significant enough to bring to a 15-minute appointment. The more precise picture of what is happening in that kitchen at 3 o'clock is this. The hunger signal you feel is not coming from your stomach. It is coming from your brain, which is reading a glucose signal that says, the cells are not getting what they need. Find carbohydrate, now. Resisting that signal with willpower is like trying to hold a door closed against increasing pressure from the other side. The door will open because that is how pressure works. But the biology that locked the door is not the only biology at play here. There is a hormone produced in your intestine that signals your brain, you are full, stop eating. It is called GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1. You may have heard of it. It is the exact hormone that medications like Ozempic and Wegovy are designed to replicate pharmacologically. In women with insulin lock, this signal arrives late, or it arrives with reduced intensity. The meal ends. The brain has not received the message yet. The craving that comes at 3 in the afternoon is not a character flaw. It is a messenger that missed its window. And inside the cell, where the lock is tightest, there is a metabolic switch called AMPK, adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. When activated, AMPK opens an alternative pathway through which glucose can enter the cell without requiring insulin. For a woman with insulin lock, where the main entrance is blocked, AMPK is the emergency exit, the side door that bypasses the lock entirely. Researchers publishing in Diabetes Care followed postmenopausal women with documented insulin resistance. Activation of the AMPK pathway through nutritional intervention was associated with a 58% reduction in insulin resistance over 12 weeks. 58%. Not a small adjustment, not a marginal improvement. More than half of the lock released through a non-pharmaceutical mechanism in women with the same physiology you have right now. That number matters because it is the same pathway, and the compound that activates it is not a prescription. I want to be precise here because this is where most health content gets it wrong for women specifically. The AMPK pathway is the same metabolic route that GLP-1 receptor agonist medications target. Ozempic works on this system through a pharmaceutical mechanism at a pharmaceutical magnitude with pharmaceutical side effects and a pharmaceutical price. What I am about to describe works on the same pathway through a completely different entry point. The magnitude is different. That is precisely why it is a daily dietary addition and not a prescription intervention. But the biochemical address is the same. And for women over 60 who cannot access those medications, or who choose not to, or who are looking for what the research actually supports as a daily nutritional protocol, this distinction matters enormously. The compound that clinical research identifies as the most studied activator of the AMPK pathway is a standardized extract of berberine, not generic berberine powder with undefined potency, not the diluted form that ends up in most shelf products, the standardized extract with the concentration and bioavailability that the clinical studies actually used. A meta-analysis published in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine analyzed 27 clinical trials using standardized berberine. 27. The average reduction in insulin resistance across those trials was 48 to 58%. Measurable reduction in visceral fat, confirmed by DEXA imaging, was documented at 12 weeks. And the studies that were specific to postmenopausal women showed results consistent with the broader analysis. Not coconut oil, which does not activate this pathway, not generic fiber supplements, which address a different mechanism entirely. Standardized berberine extract. That is the distinction the clinical research makes. I put together the protocol I would hand to a patient walking out of my office, because I have spent 32 years watching women work harder than they ever should have had to, against a process they did not know how to name. And because most of the women in that office looked exactly like you. The formula I use and recommend is the closest commercially available combination to what the clinical research supports for women over 60. Berberine for the AMPK pathway, an extract from Seville orange peel standardized around a molecule called p-synephrine, which supports thermogenic signaling, the calorie-burning signal that estrogen used to sustain. Andalusian red pepper extract for post-meal metabolic activity, the window that narrows after menopause. Himalayan mountain ginger to support blood sugar stability through the afternoon hours, the hours when Insulin Lock sends its loudest signals. And ceremonial green tea, standardized for EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, for sustained energy through the part of the day when the cycle hits hardest. Each compound targets a different link in the same cascade. Insulin Lock produces visceral fat. Visceral fat worsens insulin lock. GLP-1 arrives late. AMPK stays closed. The afternoon signal fires anyway. It is a cascade, and it starts with one capsule. Before I show you where to find this protocol, I need to tell you about 3 women who came to me with exactly your history. Donna is 71 years old, from Nashville, Tennessee. 3 physicians had told Donna that what she was experiencing was normal for her age. The waistband expanding, the energy collapsing by 2 in the afternoon, 4 years of disrupted sleep. Donna was not looking to lose weight. She was looking to function. In 12 weeks, sending the right signal to the AMPK pathway, Donna lost 7 centimeters of abdominal circumference and returned to sleeping more than 6 hours without waking. Her words, not the number on the scale. Waking rested for the first time in years. Susan is 66, from Phoenix, Arizona. Susan had done everything: 2 years of low carbohydrate eating, daily intermittent fasting, morning walks without exception. Every choice was right. What Susan did not know was that she was using a protocol designed for a metabolism she no longer had. With Insulin Lock active, the biochemical signal that precedes any meaningful result was not being sent. In 8 weeks on the correct protocol, Susan lost 4.5 kilograms and reported that the 3 o'clock cravings simply stopped arriving. Patricia is 63, from Richmond, Virginia. Patricia did not trust supplements, so she tracked her own HbA1c, or hemoglobin A1c, before and after. 12 weeks. Her HbA1c moved from 6.1 to 5.7. Inside a clinical setting, that movement is significant. For Patricia, it was the proof she needed that the mechanism was real, not marketing. 3 women, 3 different objections, the same villain, the same cycle, and the same response. Now the only question that remains is whether you are going to give your metabolism the signals it has been waiting for, or leave the insulin lock in place for one more year. Every year after 60, insulin resistance worsens by an estimated 2 to 3%. The biology does not pause while you decide. Imagine waking up without that 3 o'clock signal that arrives before the afternoon is over. Imagine the energy holding steady through 5. Imagine the waistband that has been expanding for years beginning, for the first time, to move in the other direction. On the other side of that, if the cycle continues without intervention, the path is documented. 2 to 3% more resistant every year. A window that narrows every season. A lock that requires more force to open the longer it stays closed. The research is already in the journals. The protocol is specific. The link is in the pinned comment. The only variable left is whether you use it. Insulin Lock produces visceral fat. Visceral fat worsens insulin lock. Over years, that cycle compounds. The protocol does not just address today. It breaks the cycle at the biochemical level, where it started, where it has been running without a name, possibly for years. The only question left is whether you are going to send the signal. I have pinned a comment directly below this video with the exact product, the exact protocol, and the exact timing written out in plain language. It is the first thing you will see when you scroll down. Everything you need is there. Do not wait.